101 review. Book one, what it's all about. The books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's a man's mindset and confidence coach, helping ambitious men lead with clarity, purpose, and power. No other than Mr. Scott Hardiman.
Hello there. How's it going?
Fabulous, fabulous, and busy, Mr. Scott. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yeah, you did a pretty good job, to be honest. That's my day in day out. A little bit about me. So something that's really important to me is obviously my work and helping other people, but also I'm a husband. I've been a husband for 13 years. Been together with my wife for 17, and I am a dad. So I've got a little daughter. She's nearly 8 years old. So that takes a lot of my time as well. But a big focus for me is obviously family life, but also pursuing growth, helping other people, and developing their lives if they choose to. Yeah.
Mr. Scott Hardiman, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today let's talk about breaking free from self-doubt, how ambitious man can build a unshakable confidence. So tell us, why is self-doubt often a silent struggle for ambitious men, and what is the societal pressures make it difficult for them to acknowledge or talk about it?
Well, as in general, I think, although it's changing, I think these days, but I would say that men have had a challenge of opening up and expressing how they felt. I think a lot of that comes down to the way they were brought up. So it's something that I think is changing, but most of the time, the challenges that men have is just because they're not willing to kind of experience and allow themselves to feel what they're feeling. So what we need to do is create a nice safe space for guys. It doesn't have to be too wishy-washy, but allow a guy to be able to express themselves comfortably, safely, and then when they do that, it opens them up to lots of opportunity where they can begin to grow, build their confidence, and obviously step out of that self-doubt. But I would say it's about trying to create a safe space, and often men just haven't had that, and that is probably the biggest challenge they're experiencing. Yeah.
How does the experience of imposter syndrome uniquely manifest for men, particularly in competitive high achievement environments like business, tech, and finance?
Well, business, tech, and finance, I suppose a lot of the guys that are in those spaces and are at that level, you have to be very driven. You want to and have this mindset of wanting to achieve. So naturally, there's going to be lots of other competition that are going to be wanting to do the same. And if we haven't been given the tools or the strategies or like I said, the space to understand ourselves more, then other people and the way that they're doing can very much impact how we feel about ourselves. And then that's where an imposter syndrome kind of drips into our day to day. Oh, can I do this? I don't feel like I'm in the right space. Am I just pretending? And all of these situations that come up. So, yeah, I think it's because it is a competitive environment when you're in that business owner space and you're trying to grow. That's probably why imposter syndrome creeps in for these guys, for sure. That's what I see day to day anyway.
Yes, for sure. And Mr. Scott, how often men or do men use a facade of overconfidence or bravado to make or to mask deep seated self doubt? And what of those cause of maintaining that mask?
Yeah, I mean, it is a thing. I would say, the guys I work with, they do try and put on this. I'm more confident. However, if I'm honest, the majority of the guys that I speak to are struggling with that. They can't allow themselves to step into that space of pretending or fake it till you make it because it just doesn't feel natural to them. So it is about stripping it back and saying, why is it that you are not feeling confidence within yourself? Because I'm a firm believer in confidence is inside out. And yes, we can do things. We can show up in a different way to try and boost our confidence. We can do the little bits that make us feel more confident in the moment, with your shoulders back, your head up, maintaining eye contact, taking nice deep breaths, visualizations, and they will work to an extent. But for me, it comes, like I said, from the inside out. So we need to understand what is the root cause for the lack of confidence, what is the root cause for the self-doubt. And if we can reveal those, then we can start to resolve and then step into that confidence more authentically, more organically. And then the kind of in the moment of pretending to be, with, like I say, your shoulders back, your head up, maintaining that eye contact, becomes more natural. And actually, you probably find that you don't need to do that as much, because you've dealt with the underlying issue that is creating the lack of confidence.
Mr. Scott, on the root causes, how do external often narrow definitions of success?
Say that again.
How do external often narrow definition of success?
How does the external determine our success? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it all comes down to comparison again, I think, as well. Often the external can impact us, but it's recognizing that the external we can't do anything about. We can only control what we can control. So if we are controlling what we can control, we get to influence the external. We can't control that. And that's what a lot of the work I do. It's about saying, okay, let's focus on the guy that I'm in front of. What can they do to improve themselves? Whereas some of the gentlemen that I will work with, they will try and they'll have a lot of stress and anxiety around the external factors in life, which they can't control. So it's about taking a step back and saying, well, what can I control? What can I do about myself? What can I do to elevate me? And then that will have a direct correlation to the things externally from them, but in a more of an influencing way. So, as an example, if someone is wanting to pursue a certain career or start to grow their business, as they start to grow their business, then naturally things won't go in the way that they want them to go. It's just the way it is. There are a lot of challenges, and that can sometimes bring some of the guys that I work with a lot of stress. So what we need to do is take a step back and say, what can I control? What can I do? And then what they tend to find is that the things around them start to shift in a positive way because of what they've done on themselves and the work that they've done within them.
In the age of LinkedIn and social media, how does constant comparison to the curated highlights of other men's careers fuels feeling inadequacy and doubt?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that a lot of the time, yeah, there's a lot of comparison, but I think it comes down to, social media. It can really have a negative impact on others, but it's recognizing and bringing the guys back to realizing that we're all on our own journey, and what is success anyway? What is that? What is different for everybody. And the more that you speak to people, and I'd encourage that if you're a guy out there and you're comparing yourself to others and seeing other people's successes, just speak to them, because what you'll probably realize is that those guys have got their own challenges going on. They may feel more successful, they may seem more successful, but actually, if you listen to them, you talk to them, they'll be going through their own stuff that they're having to deal with. And it actually helps us realize that we're in a pretty good place already. Yes, we want to grow. Yes, we want to develop. But the comparison side of things is never going to serve us. And it's, for me, it's always, okay, well, instead of saying, oh no, I'm not like this person, or that person's doing better than me, and comparing, it's about, how do I model that? How can I say, well, this person's there, what can I do to model them, rather than compare myself to them?
Very well said, Mr. Scott. Very well said. And how can a distant, critical, or absent father figure contribute to a lifelong pattern of seeking external validation and struggling with self worth?
I mean, there's a lot there. What you, you asked a big question there.
Yes.
Yeah, I think as with anything, if we're trying to have a positive impact on the people around us, whether it's our children, our relationships, it all comes down to taking responsibility for ourselves. Yeah, and saying, what can we do to improve? If I feel like I've got a lack of self-worth, then I need to take responsibility for that, and I need to do something about it, because no one can make us feel anything. It's how we feel about the situation. So yeah, if we're trying to be someone that's more present with our children, we're trying to be a better partner, just say, okay, awareness is great, but on its own, it's crap, because what we need to do is take responsibility for that awareness and look inwards and say, I'm in control here. I can control what I can control. Take responsibility for that, and you'll be so amazed at what that does to the people around us, and what we do to show up more frequently and in the way that we want.
Frequently indeed. And Mr. Scott, what is the first most powerful step a man can take to honestly acknowledge his self doubt without feeling like it's a signal of weakness?
Oh yeah, I mean, great question. I mean, there's so much that you can do. There, I would definitely reach out to someone that you feel could help. It's talking to people and understanding that other people also have challenges, and that's most definitely not a weakness. Expressing yourself, uh, and sharing. You don't have to share everything. You can be, yes, giving of what you're experiencing to other people, in a way that doesn't make you feel too uncomfortable. But when you share, when you express yourself, it's actually a sign of strength. Being able to say, hey, by the way, this is happening. I experience self doubt and I've got a little bit of a lack of confidence. I'm aware of this and I'm working on it. That for me is strength. That's not weakness. That's saying, hey, I'm taking responsibility for my life. That is progress. That is growth. That is strength. So, yeah, I would say look into ways to be able to share with other guys out there that are going to enable you to move past what it is that you're struggling with, and you'll be surprised. Like I said, there's other people out there doing the same thing, and it's a sign of strength if you can say that, hey, I'm working on this. I'm not okay with it, and I'm moving forward.
Yes, let it go, people. And how does a man begin to redefine personal strength and confidence, not as a sense of doubt, but as a courage to take action in
The
spite
first
of it?
Yeah, great question. The first thing that I would always look at is language. It's the words that you are using within ourselves. So for me, there's a statement I use, and it's limiting language leads to a limited life. So if I'm not feeling confident, if I'm doubting myself, if I'm not where I want to be, even though you can look at your life and say, well, I'm successful, but I'm still not content. I'm the kind of the best version of my limited self. Then for me, it's always about taking a step back and saying, okay, well, what's the language I'm using? What am I saying to myself up here? Because if it's not helpful, then it's going to create my reality. If I'm limiting myself in the way that I talk, with I experience self doubt, I lack confidence, I'm not where I want to be. Well, if I tell myself I lack confidence, then guess what? I'm going to lack confidence. So it's very much about starting from scratch and saying, okay, what's the language I use? What am I saying to myself? And let's really deal with that. And you'll be so surprised at the shift that can take place when that happens.
Yes. Visualize it, people. Visualize. And what is the process of shifting from seeking validation from titles, salaries, and other opinions to generating a sense of self worth from within?
Well, again, it comes down to what you believe about yourself, and how you perceive the world. I think if you have strong beliefs and they align with where you're going, then it doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks outside of you. And so I would say that the best thing to do is work on what I believe to be true and what you believe to be true. Because if you believe something that's helpful, that's going to guide your every step. If I believe that I'm worthy of what have got, and I'm worthy of achieving X, Y, and Z, then I'm going to show up in that way. I'm going to feel emotionally strong, and I'm going to take actions that align with that. So, number one is saying, okay, well, what language do I have? What am I telling myself? Is it limiting or is it helpful? Is it empowering? And what do I believe to be true? Because what we believe to be true dictates everything. That's the way our brain works. If I believe something to be true, I'm going to look for ways to prove that I'm right. So yeah, what do I believe to be true, and really try and create something that's empowering rather than limiting, because we all have them. We all have those limitations. It's about revealing, being aware enough to reveal them, and then taking responsibility and shifting those beliefs to actually help us get what we want.
Mr. Scott, on building unshakable confidence, what is the relationship between genuine competence and true confidence? Is one prerequisite for the other?
For sure. I believe that competence builds confidence. We just have to look at anything that we do in life. I love a coffee, and I would say that I'm pretty confident in making a good cup of coffee. Why? Because I've made plenty and I'm competent at it. So for me, we have to take action. And when we take action, we learn and we grow, and then we take more action because of the information that we've gained from taking the action before that. Then we learn and grow some more, and the more that we learn and grow, the more competent we become. And when we're competent in something, we are confident. Now, there's a few other aspects to it. So, we need to be confident in who we are. So, again, if we practice who we are, we understand who we are, then we can become more competent in who we are and our confidence increases. But it also is exactly the same for things in our life. So, when it comes to work, presentations, putting ourselves out there in social situations, the more that we take action, the more that we learn and we grow. And the more that we do that, the more competent we become at it. So, therefore, confidence grows. That's what I've seen, and I stand by that.
Confidence first, for sure. How does a taking action, even when feeling afraid or doubtful, actually create confidence as a result rather than prerequisite?
So, how does action help?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, action allows us to get feedback. So when we do something, we the feedback might not be exactly what we want, but it allows us to take it on and say, okay, well, what can I learn from this? And can I evolve? Can I adapt? Whatever it is, it could be great feedback. It could be feedback that we weren't expecting. But the only way we can get that feedback and get that information is by taking action. But when we take that action, we gain that experience in life or whatever it is that we're progressing in. And then that in itself is the kind of catalyst for creating that competence and therefore the confidence. So action creates feedback, and that feedback begins that journey up towards confidence. As long as we're conscious and we're aware and we're willing to take that feedback as exactly as it is, rather than a knockdown, it's a help up.
Mr. Scott, as a man's mindset and confidence coach, what are your short term and long term goals?
For me personally, at the moment, I'm stepping into acquisitions when it comes to businesses. So looking at buying businesses, and that's a really big goal of mine. And then when it comes to my coaching business, is to reach as many men as possible and help them as much as possible, because I know what it's like to struggle and I've been there. I know what it's like to limit myself, and I no longer do that. So if I've got something that I want to help other guys, I can help other guys with. I want to get it out there and do what I can. Um, but yeah, another long term goal of mine is to be the best husband and dad that I can be.
To be the best of the best, for sure. And looking forward for more success and good luck to your goals, Mr. Scott. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
But, well, don't be like me. Be yourself. I think that's probably number one. I know it sounds cheesy, but you're your own unique individual. Don't try and be like anyone else. Just be yourself. You can model someone and say, "I want to be in a similar position to them," but do it in your own way because you're the only one of you. So be authentic, be unique, lean into that as much as possible, and you'll attract people in your life that are meant to be there and repel people that are not meant to be there. So my piece of advice is don't be like me, be like you, and you'll be so surprised at what life gives you.
Be like you. And thank you for that advice, Mr. Scott. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, so I took a little bit of reflection on this, and the one book that I would say that influenced my journey more than most was Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within, actually. So I was going through a really tough time with anxiety and low confidence. And I started to gradually explore the world of personal development. And I think I was looking on Facebook Marketplace, and there was a selection of books, about 10 books that I found on there, and I got them and I looked through them and I picked up. I'd never heard of Tony Robbins before. I picked it up and I started to go through it, and it really piqued my interest. And the journey that he went on and the information in the book, and it kind of gave me that push to dive more into this personal development world, and that is what helped me step away from my anxiety and into confidence and start the journey that I'm on now. And I've been doing this for a very long period of time. I'm doing it 8+ years. And the funny thing is that actually that book, I read a good chunk of it, but I didn't actually finish it, and I still haven't. But that for me, if it's still the book that comes to mind that has influenced me the most, even though I didn't finish it, that's a good sign.
Thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Scott. And what is a small daily challenge you will give an ambitious man for the next 30 days to start building his confidence muscle?
Number one is to start to recognize the language that you're using. I would say the next 30 days, catch those thoughts that are limiting and unhelpful. We have to raise awareness. And then what we can do with that awareness is once you understand what you're telling yourself, you can go, oh, yes, no wonder I feel the way I feel. No wonder my confidence isn't where I want it to be. No wonder I'm doubting myself. When you have that, you can then do something about it. But if you don't notice, you can't make changes. So the challenge for 30 days is raise your awareness as high as you can. Start to notice, what am I thinking? How do I feel about myself? And then you can do something about it and make a shift.
What is specific framework for processing professional rejection or failure without letting define self-worth?
Well, that's a good question. Framework we could use is looking at most of the time is we're making assumptions or we've got fears. So I would a little framework we can use is a little exercise is get a bit of paper, put a line down that bit of paper. On the left, write assumptions and fears. On the right, write down the word facts and look at the situation you're going through and write down the assumptions that you're making about that situation and then write down the facts. And what that will do is that will take you up into your logical brain rather than your emotional brain, and you can look at things in a slightly different way. But most of the time, if we're feeling like that, like you've just explained and described, then we need to go, okay, well, I'm obviously being quite emotional here. I'm assuming certain things. I'm coming from a place of fear. Let me step away from that, recognize what that is, and then start to look at what's the fact of the situation. What is the actual truth here, as best as I know, and then lean into that, and that can help you move past things very quickly.
And how can embracing vulnerability, sharing struggles with a trusted few actually become a source of strength and connection for ambitious men rather than a weakness?
Well, community is so important. I think in this day and age, often it's encouraged to it's okay to kind of sit on your own and go through life that way. But actually, when you put yourself into a space where there is a community, you, like I said, you start to resonate with other people and you help other people. When you help other people, you feel help. And I would say that's one of the best things to do when you're vulnerable, when you're open. You don't have to be vulnerable with everybody, with a select few, but when you are open and you do express yourself in that way and put yourself in a community space, then it can really help in the way that we feel and encourage growth because you get different perspectives from different people, all unique in their own way, all being authentic in their own way, and it can really encourage growth and give us that kickstart into where we want to go.
Mr. Scott, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. And please do listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Scott, if you could summarize the essence of unshakable confidence for a man, what would it be?
Take responsibility for the way you feel. Really simply, I think a lot of the time there's this other people are the problem. Well, it's never that. It's always something to do with us. So take responsibility. It's not always easy. It requires some strength to shine a light on ourselves. But once we do that and we step into it, a whole host of things can shift and our life becomes a lot more interesting and opportunities do definitely present themselves.
Mr. Scott Hardiman, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I've got a coaching business and I help other people. So if you want to kind of come and check me out, you've got my website, further-coaching.com. I've got Instagram, which is Scott D. Hardiman. And yeah, you just have a little search. I'm on LinkedIn as well. Yeah, just search Further Coaching or Scott Hardiman and you'll come across me somewhere, I'm sure.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Scott Hardiman because if we support him, for sure, more and more empowering coaching to come. So, Mr. Scott, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Take care.
Multicom people, see you soon.